Okay, so this is the third video about the IE Arduino project. So in this video, we're going to incorporate the LED ring, which you can see here. So it's pretty bright. You'll see when you start working with it, but it's got 12 LEDs that are really easy to basically turn on and off in pretty specific ways with whatever color you want. And so the three wires you see coming off of here, it should come pre-soldered to you with these wires already on. So like I said, it's handy to color code. So red is power, black is ground, and then this will be the signal, which in our case, we're going to use pin 5, which is 2 away from the IR pin that we used. So real quick, the hookup is pretty easy for this. So we'll put the red wire into the power rail that we already set up. The black wire can go into the ground like that. And then the yellow wire can go into our signal. So this is the coding portion of the video where we're testing the LED ring. So you should have everything hooked up. We provided the LED ring with the wires already soldered on. So basically what this code is meant to do is to write to the LED ring, make sure everything is working, and just define some functions that when we combine with the IR remote later will be useful so that we can control our remote with, or we can control our ring with the IR remote. So you should already have everything hooked up, and I'll just remind you how to get a library on here. So we're using the Adafruit NeoPixel library. So if you go to Manage Libraries and you look up Adafruit NeoPixel, it should be right here. So the third one down by Adafruit. And I already have it installed again, but that's how you do it. Up here, I don't have this one, so you just click install, and once you have that, you can either type this out or you can do, if you go to Sketch, include library, it's right here. You click that and it include this include statement for you. We define a couple things. So we say the number of LEDs are 12, the number or the number of the pin we're using to control that LED ring is 5. This is how you define your ring. I won't go too into the details since you already have this code that you can run and test this out. But to define our LED ring, we say what's the number of LEDs, what pin are we using, and then we just pass in these parameters, which tells it what type of ring we have. And then we define a couple functions, and I'll actually show those in a second. And we also define an array that will hold our color values. So this means that it's an array of 3 values that are integers from 0 to 255. And it doesn't put anything in it, but it makes space for it so we can use it later. Inside of our setup, we say ring.begin and ring.show, which just starts the ring, and I think it'll just keep it off to start, but it initializes the ring. As for those 2 functions, so change color, increment color, so change color will just change it directly to that RGB. Increment color will change it by the color, it'll change the color that we want by a certain increment, and I'll show you how we use those in a second, but first that's what these are. You don't really need to understand all this stuff super in depth because we're giving these to you, but in case you wanted to, change color, it takes in the red, green, and blue variables. It stores those inside of our array that we declared up here, current color. And then it writes these new colors to every LED in the ring. So it loops through from 0 to our final LED, and it just uses that built-in function set pixel color and RGB. It writes that color to it. And then after we write all those, we do ring.show, which makes the ring show this new color pattern. Inside of increment color, it's pretty simple as well. We say our new intensity of the color we're trying to change is its current color plus an increment. It makes sure that this isn't outside of our acceptable range, 0 to 255, and then sets that color and writes it to the LED using this function that we defined above. So really, this is just a special version of this function. You don't really need to understand this to use it, but you do need to understand how to write these function calls. So if I want to change the color to whatever this value is, I just have it set to 120, so it's not just white the whole time. But you need to understand how to use the function. You don't really need to understand how to write it, but in case you did want to, or wanted to write your own or change it, this is just a basic example. And then for our actual test, all we do is we loop through the values 1 to 255. 0 to 255 is the acceptable range for RGB color values. There's tons of stuff online if you want to figure out how do I change it to a given color. Just look up your favorite color, I guess, and what its RGB values are. And usually, it might be like 50, 75, 215. It's RGB. So all it does is it changes the colors in this range. It waits a little bit in between so it doesn't just look immediate. And hopefully you don't have epilepsy. This might mess you up because it does flash every 1/100th of a second, or it changes the color every 1/100th of a second. So this is, if we verify it, and you should already be hooked up to your Arduino board, so the serial old bootloader with the Nano, and then if everything is already hooked up, you upload it, and now you should see your LED start to test. So, now we'll zoom back to the what it looks like physically in real life. So now that we have all the code set up, we can upload it, and remember we just put in a really quick test to start it really dim and then brighten it up, and you can see it's pretty bright. It's kind of hurting my eyes. So yeah, it's definitely working. So now in our next video, which will be next in the playlist, we'll be combining these two things together. So now that we have our IR commands working and now we have our LED working, now we can stick them together. It might not be a bad idea to toy around with the LED a little bit more before you start jumping into the Arduino. You can play around with some different colors and see what you like before you start setting it up based on the codes. So, tune in for the next video.